Welcome to the Heartification podcast, where I interview people on how art has affected their lives and what it means to them. Art has a very special place in my life. It not only makes me feel happy, but it allows me to make others feel special. This podcast is all about how art has made an impact on others' lives, for all ages, all backgrounds, and all walks of life. You can find more about this podcast guest in my show notes. Without further ado, let's welcome my next guest. He is an entrepreneur, copywriter, and podcast host. Please welcome my next guest, Adil Amarsi.
Hey, thanks for having me, Avni.
Yeah, thank you so much for being on my podcast.
Brilliant to have you here. Just before we begin, I'm going to let everyone know if you hear a sound in the background, that is not a child, that is my pet cat. He is just excited to be here.
Awesome. So the first question I always ask is, how do you define art?
I define art as an expression of yourself. So it doesn't always have to be drawn. It can be sang, it can be spoken, it can be in how you dress and how you express yourself. It's essentially finding how you extend yourself into the world in its own creative manner.
Yeah, definitely. That's exactly my definition. Any way you're able to express yourself. And as you just said, it doesn't just have to be drawing or painting. When I was younger, that's what I thought at first, art. If someone said art, the first thing came to my mind was, painting or sculpting. But really, if you think about it, everything is an art, because art is anything you're able to express yourself. So as you said, like fashion, singing, dance, music, speaking, even any way you're able to express yourself. So I totally agree with you on that.
I would also add in, surprisingly, spreadsheets. There are friends of mine that are accountants, and they're just when you see the way they do their spreadsheets, you're like, wow, that is actually an art form that you're perfecting.
Yeah, definitely.
It seems like my cat agrees.
Yeah. And what art forms are you exposed to?
I am my favorite art form is storytelling. Storytelling in all its varieties, whether it's fiction, non-fiction, like this No Filter podcast, or whether it's in documentaries where, you're filming things around and seeing how they all work. That would be my most, that's my favorite expression. But then that also takes place in digital artwork that I like to play with my iPad, poetry, even in advertising, the way that I like writing my words or writing in books, or even just writing in general. I enjoy blogging. So basically my form is expression in that way. The other is more unconventional, like stand-up comedy. I love going on stage when I could go on stage and making people laugh and enjoying those aspects. And it's really interesting because the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm actually realizing art comes in so many different forms in my life, because it also comes in the form of my martial arts, which has the word art in it in its own, of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, where you're essentially playing chess with another human being based on body positioning. So that in its own right is its own movement.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree. And you used to write stories after school for your dad. Did you feel that you were able to express yourself while you were doing that?
Yes. Writing was actually one of my very odd things that I was into, mainly because I found out about 6 years after I started writing these stories, 7 years after I started writing these stories, that I'm dyslexic. So it was quite humorous that my favorite art form of expression was writing, when my reading used to mess me around.
Yeah, that's awesome. And how important do you think it is to express yourself in a business?
Extremely. Expressing who you are is really powerful in today's world. More than anything, business is turning into an expression, an extension of who you are as a person. So if you express yourself through the way that you dress, you can build a business around that. And in today's world, I find it's even more important than ever before.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree. And I think it's also important so that you have that kind of your personal touch. If all of the businesses were the same and they were all, the same concept, same way you do things, you wouldn't get clients or you wouldn't get money, right?
Yeah, it
So
would
I
be,
think,
it wouldn't have any differentiating factors.
yeah, definitely. And I think it's really cool. Like if you would look at one area of, businesses you can see different ways different people do things, and it's really cool to, just look at
Yeah,
it.
yeah, for sure.
And
The
art can be therapeutic and it can help people express themselves, and help people through difficult situations. So, has art ever helped you through a difficult situation? And can you give an example?
Actually, yeah, I can give several. So art has been helping me in its own format and play for a very long time because it comes in so many different forms. So I've had it when I'll give you three specific examples in my life when art has really played a huge part for me. So I was diagnosed with bipolar depression type 1 when I was 14, which is the more suicidal tendency where you have, unfortunately, have your mind tricks you into thinking that things are much worse than they are. And you need to finish them. Um, I found that art was my escape. So, like writing, doing hip hop and poetry as a teenager, that was my escape out of my own brain into a format where I can actually express myself. The other would be the second object for me, like of how art in particular has helped me go through a traumatic experience, or even, well, not so much traumatic, but an expressive experience was about 5 years ago, I was going through a very deep meditative state, and you guys can see him in the background. And what I started to realize was that I was going through a situation where I was healing some past trauma from my childhood. The other time that actually helped me was by going through like this deep meditative experience where I was starting to express a lot of grief and trauma. And I realized that the only way I could experience and express that was by drawing. So I just started to draw a lot of emotions, and this was the first time that I spoke to your dad about this. But I started to see something called the lion, and for absolutely ages, this was one of the first times that the lion truly exposed who they were in my world, like my spirit animal in that sense, if you want to call it that. Um, and it was there, and I drew it. And since then, it's just shown up in different times in my life. And the most recent version of this was my father passed away in January. And thank you for sending your art piece.
Yeah, awesome. I hoped you
As
liked it.
when it arrives, I will definitely have it up on my wall, and everyone will be able to see it. And of course, I'll send you a photo. But one of the things that really came from that was therapeutic. Being told about that. The second was I started to draw a lot more and more towards uh, kind of landscapes, towards how my dad expressed himself of like being back home. And that's really when I realized that art was becoming more my therapy than anything else.
Yeah, and sometimes you don't have to be into art to go to art as a way to cope, right? And I think, sometimes just sitting down and expressing yourselves, whether it be journaling or drawing like you or singing, I think it's important that we all do it at least on a daily basis.
I agree. I agree. Even cooking. To me, like cooking is another form of expression in art.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree. And how do you use creativity in copywriting?
So one of the things that really gets me with copywriting today is thankfully it's allowing for more creativity and less um, roboticism in like advertising and lying. Because what's happening today is that people are starting to understand that a well-written piece of copy has to involve a gripping and hooking story that is true. And a lot of the times now we live in a world today where you can very easily find someone's story and find out why they started something. And this goes back to your earlier question about how creativity and art it can be used in expression in business today. Because the business is an extension of you, writing your advertising and writing your copy is so much more fun because there is true reason to why you do something. Like today, it's not so much that I created a brand new device because I just felt like making millions of dollars and I did the market research. No, it's I did all that because I realized that this situation once happened to me and I realized I didn't want anyone else to feel this way. So I created this device as a way to negate this small problem. And thankfully, it's helping more and more people. Um, so in that same as in that example, you can take anything that happened to someone and really show how that creativity comes in through copy. So it's marrying old school principles that work in psychology and combining it with a creativity and levity that's never been available before.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I totally agree with you. And are you attracted to any particular artist?
There's a couple of people, but they're more modern artists. I like that when I say modern, I mean they're digital artists. There's two in particular. They're both YouTubers as well. One of them is Gal Shear, Galshir. He's an incredible artist. And Art with Flow, she's also another great artist. There's two more, but I can't remember their names. But those are like more modern artists I enjoy. More classical artists for me, of course, is Da Vinci. He will always be at the top of my list. Michelangelo is a huge inspiration for me as well. Um, I'm a huge fan of, so even going further back to saying to artists of different formats like Cicero, and his ability to be an orator is an incredible piece of artwork for me. I was looking or reading Dante's Inferno by Virgil and seeing how he melds words together. All that is art form to me in a different way. So those are the people I look at inspiration and guess probably the biggest musical inspiration for me, surprisingly, is only in the form of two songs, and that's by Jimi Hendrix. Um, Voodoo Child, and of course, All Along the Watchtower. Those two songs really encapsulate how I feel. I can really feel that as a from the music that they create. I can really feel all the emotions that come through it. So those are the inspirations I really have as an artist.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really cool how, like you just said, you can really feel what the artist, was trying to say and you can connect with them. And I think it's important to, in a business, connect with your clients, but also when when I paint, if someone were to look at a painting, I feel that they should connect to the painting in some way, whatever way that they want, from their different experiences. But I think it's amazing to see how different people interpret different paintings, or a book, or a song. Yeah, so it's just really cool to see how everyone has their own interpretation of many different things.
Yeah, it's really really cool.
Yeah, and are you attracted to any particular art form?
It's really hard to answer that question because there isn't a particular one I enjoy. It's more are we saying stuff that I enjoy doing or am I attracted to in seeing?
Whichever one you can give, your favorite one in doing and your favorite one in, just seeing.
Okay, cool. So we'll go with seeing. I'd say my favorite art form to watch more than anything is capoeira and dancing. Because it's very beautiful in the way that it's done. It's movement based. It has a history of why it's there, and each interpretation of the Latin dance has its own history to why it's there. So I enjoy looking at it from that perspective. Um, to partake in, it's kind of difficult because there's so much. Like I love cooking. Like when I cook with a passion because for me, it's maximizing the use of all the flavor profile from the most basic dish all the way to drawing. I love digital artwork because it's one of my favorite things to do as a way to relax. I enjoy playing my ukulele because my ukulele is another thing that just seems to relax my body whenever I'm in a stressed out situation. And there's just a lot going on. It's just a really fun way of expression. But if I had to pick one, ultimately one, because my very, very top of expressions of how art form is, it has to be stand-up comedy, because it's the purest form of human expression, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think like for some reason the stand-up comedy kind of reminded me of today at school. We in drama class we were doing improvisation, and it was
Ooh,
really funny. So we had like these different like sorry, these different like sentences on these different pieces of paper, and our teacher like picked them up, and like we were in partners, and then she gave it to one of us, and we had to just like act out, and it was really funny to see how it played out, and like the weird things that people said.
okay, so you have to give me an example of that.
Okay. Oh. Well, I can give an example of mine. So, my partner, he said, "Oh, come on, we're gonna be late for the wedding." So I was like, "Oh, I don't want to get married." And then he was like, "Why?" And it was like, "I think I made the wrong choice." And just went back and forth with me saying why I don't want to go to the wedding, and him like trying to persuade me. So it's really funny, and the whole class was laughing. Um, And there was another one where my friend was one, and then there was another guy, and he spilled his M&Ms in a cafe, and she had to clean it up, and then she had to get new M&Ms, but instead she got markers, and she said they were basically the same thing, which was funny. Yeah, but it was amazing to see, how different people, also going back to the interpretation thing, interpret, the different lines and how they react in, a split second.
It's pretty cool. I love improv. It's one of the most purest forms of comedy there is, and of course, have you guys played the and then game?
I don't think so.
Okay, so this is a little fun improv thing that we did for a while. It's you start off any kind of conversation, but then you have to add the word and then. And that's how you continue it on. So it could be like I was on a podcast with this really cool person, and then you would continue on the next section. You would tell your part of the story and then finish it with and then I have to continue on from there.
Oh, wow, that sounds really cool.
Yeah, it's a fun little thing that I learned a really long time ago that really helped out. But I've got to flip the question to you. Who has been your most inspire? What art form inspires you the most?
Well, for me, it's painting. I've been painting since I was 4 years old. I was put in art classes when I was four, but I don't really have that much of a memory, but I'm guessing I was, painting all my life, right? Dad? He's right there. Yeah.
It's Dad.
He's saying hi.
Hey, Adil.
Excellent.
Yeah, so I would say painting, just really inspires me how there's so many different techniques. And also, so last year we had to do this Lawson project, which I think is normally for high schoolers, but we just did it for fun, I guess. I don't know. And we basically had to just like pick a topic and persuade people about that topic and like write an essay about it. So I did Emily Carr because she was an amazing painter, and I got books from the library and looked on websites, and I actually realized how difficult of a life she had. Like people always kept putting her down because she was a woman, and she was friends with the natives because they were seen to be disgusting and filthy back then. And so she really inspires me how she kept on pushing, just doing what she loves, which was painting, and not really listening to, as my dad calls, the naysayers. And just keep pushing and doing what she loves. So I'm really inspired by her. And yeah, so just painting, the different techniques and how different people have different styles, and they can actually put themselves or their personality on the canvas.
That's pretty cool. I love stuff like that. You'll have to send me her name again, please, so I can actually always remember this. You
Emily
don't mind?
Carr.
Emily Carr. Two R's or one R?
Two bars, I'm pretty sure.
Cool.
Emily Carr. Yeah, I think there's a school named after her as well, which is pretty cool.
Pretty cool. Yeah, Canadian artist. Yep. Cool. I'll
Elementary
check out
school.
more of the yeah, I'll check
Yeah,
out more of the
awesome.
work.
And my Heartification project is all about giving back to the community, specifically to those with disabilities and illnesses. So, how do you give back to the community?
One of the things that we've been doing as well, starting with COVID, was actually working with a small foundation over in the UK right now that helps people with mental health issues find ways of using their creativity as a way of escape. So, for instance, myself having being diagnosed with bipolar with dyslexia and having ADD, it's a real concoction of emotional trials when you're going through it as you're in your teen years and your early, just all the way until it's treated really, or at least it's looked after. So one of the things that we've been doing with this little charity is hosting workshops, specifically around just time for people to get in. They can have little workshop groups where we can just discuss any issues they have, or if they want to create something, or if they have an idea about something. It's just a free place for people to come and exchange ideas, and it's been fun. It's been fun, like donating time and expertise towards that and doing a few trainings. Hopefully they're going to be running that again this summer, and I'm going to be taking part again.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And like what you just said, it kind of reminds me of my pop-up events where those with disabilities and illnesses can just come and express themselves without having any judgment.
Yeah, definitely. It is one of those areas that we do work on.
Yeah, that's awesome. And how would you like people to get in touch with you?
Cool. I'd say the best way to find me anywhere would be on Instagram, which is just under my name, Adil Amarsi. That's Adilamarsi. Hit me up. Let me know exactly where like that you're from Avni's group, and we'll definitely talk. I'll share some art with you guys. Send me some of your stuff that you're creating right now. And if I can help out in anything that you guys are looking to do, I'm more than happy to do so.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on my podcast.
Thank you for having me. Have a great day, and speak to you soon.
Yeah, you too. Thank you for listening to this podcast. Remember, if you want to find out more about this guest, please go to my show notes where I have all the links needed. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe to my podcast series and help me by sharing it, leaving a rating, and a comment. I hope you join me on my next podcast. Bye for now.